So my name's Phyllis Anderson, and I've been a nurse for 22 years. My background is all emergency medicine. And before that, I had 6 years in the medical field working in doctor's offices, in the hospital as a CNA, and like a med tech clerk, whatever. And so 28 years in what I like to call now sick care is what I refer to it as, because it truly is taking care of the sick. And what I found with Plexus in the last 4.5 years that I've been using the products is that I'm helping people get healthy. And so now I refer to it as healthcare. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing anything. None of us are prescribing anything. We're just giving people an opportunity to try something that will literally transform your life. So my story is 4.5 years ago, I was running marathon miles, 35 miles a week I would run. Then I would cross train at the gym. I was working out like crazy, but I was putting on the pounds, and I was like, where is this coming from? And at 41, I stopped having periods. At 48, I found Plexus. So I knew in my mind, this has to be hormonal. I did have a beautiful craving for sugar and wine, because let's face it, we live here. And so, but I was always able to control the weight with all the exercise I was doing. So I was never concerned about it, and would have told you, honey, I diet and I exercise. I'm really healthy and fine. But I found myself in a place of sadness, anxiety. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the ER, my heart would literally start racing, and it would take my breath away. And I remember actually coughing. It would make me cough, and my heart felt like it was flipping in my chest. So being a good nurse that I am, I'm like, let's see what's going on with your heart. So I hooked myself up to our patches, and I was having all these skipped beats so much that it was alarming the monitors. So my friends came running into the room to see what was wrong with the patient, and the patient was the nurse that's taking care of patients that day. So they're like, what is going on? And I'm like, look at this. Like, this is what my heart's doing right now, and I don't know why. So anyway, so I was sent over, big, huge cardiac workup, and stress treadmill test, echocardiogram, all the blood work, all the things. And I said to the guy as I'm running on the treadmill, the doctor, I said, I mean, I could run on this for 4 hours because I run like a lot. So tell me when. He goes, you'll wear out before I will. I said, I won't, I promise. And so after 20 minutes of running on an incline, I said, I mean, is that good enough? You know, and I had not one of those skipped beats. So he said, I know, it's just a thing. And my GYN said it's menopause. And I was like, not liking what I'm hearing. And so I kind of just kept feeling discouraged, was handed a little pill that would slow my heart rate down so I wouldn't have those skip beats. But I said, well, I can't run with that pill either because my heart rate won't respond to what I need my body to do. So I said, I'll deal with the skip beats, push the medicine aside, and just was like, all right, this is what I have here. And then my gynecologist said, I can give you some hormones, but that'll actually make you gain weight and won't necessarily take away, can't promise your hot flashes will go away. So again, I said, oh my gosh, you know, I have this strong family history of breast cancer. I'm just going to say thank you, but no thank you to the hormones. And she said, I don't blame you. So we agreed to just let me go out the door with nothing. So no real, I mean, the treatments would have been something for anxiety, something for sadness, something for acid reflux, which was I was having at nighttime. I feel like food was in my throat, even though I had eaten 2 hours before. You know, so I was looking at cholesterol. They were telling me my cholesterol was high, but I said, no, it's not. It's fine. The ratios are good. But, you know, they were just wanting to throw all these medicines at me. So I called my sister-in-law who lives in Hawaii, and she's very small. She's like Dr. McCulloch's here, just a little Polly Pocket. And I said, and we're both nurses, and I shared my story, and she's also like certified in fitness. And so I said, okay, girl, give me a new fitness routine because my body is literally used to what I'm doing. That's all I could excuse it away as. And so she said, you're doing all the right things. Like, I know how you eat. I know that you like your wine and sugar, but I know how fit you are and all that. So she said, but here's something I started. And she shared with me the pink drink. And she literally hadn't started it yet. She'd signed up for it 2 days before. So I said, I mean, I don't even care what it is. If you're putting it in your body, I trust you, because she wouldn't put anything in her body that she hadn't researched. So she did all the research. I went in blind, completely blind. But just fast forward after the first day of the pink drink, my hot flashes I said, my skin is cool. And normally I couldn't talk to you guys right now without like beating up with sweat, and I forget about it because that's what I used to look like. And it would be embarrassing, and that's when I started to isolate, like, never mind, I won't go out with friends because it's just embarrassing. It's not fun to do that anymore. I'm very social, I'm very happy. And so day one, the hot flashes were gone, and I didn't feel like I needed to eat as much food. I actually didn't have an appetite. So I'm like, that's weird. And I'm like, all I've had is this one pink drink. I'm like, I haven't even taken these other two things. That's how I started, was literally what we call the triplex. And day 4, I stopped craving sugar, and I could just walk past the pantry knowing that my Ghirardelli chocolate with the caramel center was sitting in there. And I just like walked past it and thought, I need to taste it, because my brain is saying you don't even want it. So I tasted it, and it had like a waxy like texture to it. So I'm like, that's interesting. Like, that doesn't even taste good anymore. So I took the bag and threw it in the trash, because I knew my sugar was a problem. But I'm like, well, this stuff is helping me say no to it, so I'm gonna just get rid of it and just not have it as a temptation in the house. So I started making the slow changes that my body was already like telling me to make. I just listened to it and followed those instructions. And in week 3, I'd lost 8 pounds. My belt loop went down 2 sizes. And I was like, I actually put a post up on social media. I'm like, look at this, my belt. And you could see where it had worn, you know, and I'm like, here's my new notch after 3 weeks. I was also very bloated, gassy, and constipated. I would work in the emergency room all day, and by the end of the day, I literally looked 4 months pregnant. I have 3 boys, so I know what pregnant looks like. And it was a bulging belly. My scrubs would even be tight on me, where I was having trouble just pulling them up to go to the bathroom. So my inflammation, the girth of my belly, like, all started to go down. My joint pain went away. At 3 weeks, also, my husband said, hey, don't get mad at me, but I just wanted to share with you, you're nicer. I said, okay. And it literally made me want to cry, because I don't feel like I'm a mean person, but I know that I could, you know, you get those moments where you're like, I'm going to rip somebody's head off if I don't get food. And I would feel that way. I would be hangry. I knew that about me. So anyway, so that was 3 weeks. 6 weeks, I'd lost 11 pounds. 17 weeks, I'd lost 17 pounds. And even through Christmas and the holidays, I kept losing weight. So in 6 months, I'd lost 20 pounds. And this was, I couldn't lose 1 pound with all the stuff I was doing. But slowly but surely, I even gave up my wine, which was more social, right? You tie these habits with people and things and festivities and all that. And I just got to a point where I'd have a glass, and I'm like, you know, I'm really happy with that. I didn't need to make dinner with a glass and have some with dinner and then some on the couch watching TV with the hubs. And lo and behold, my joint pain went away, and like all kinds of stuff. I have Raynaud's, and normally my hands would be white right now, and then purple and painful. It still happens occasionally, but that's another thing. That's an autoimmune disorder. I was diagnosed with RA in January for different reasons. I have no inflammation with that. I was just given a diagnosis with antibodies that are high, but because of these products and the way they keep inflammation down, I'm not experiencing methotrexate or Plaquenil or, you know, even heavier drugs. So I live medication free, and I'm just checked by a rheumatologist to make sure that I'm not having any issues that really should be treated. So I'm not ignoring things, but we're watching it and being able to live with certain things that are in my family. My dad has RA, and so we know it's in there. But so let's talk about, how does all this stuff, it sounds like we've got some snake oil here. We don't. We have this beautifully scientifically studied, like synergistically combined products with different systems. So like Stephanie asked, you know, if it's weight management, we do have a starter pack for that. If it's like hormonal, blood sugar balance, we have something for that. If it's more of like a mental health, we have customizable packs. With one of our probiotics has 2 psychobiotics in it, and that helps to alleviate feelings of sadness and stress. And it is a beautiful probiotic. It doesn't replace Probio 5, because this one, like she said, has special digestive enzymes that get to that root cause of what creates this horrible imbalance in our systems. So you want both. You don't want one or the other.
Excuse me.
Oh, sure.
So when you started out, you were mentioning the Slim. You were also taking these two.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then
Just to
month
clarify.
2, yes, I just started on the 3 products. Went through a little what we call detox and die-off. So my tummy was making a lot of noise. I was extra gassy. I actually got more constipated, but through the help of a sponsor and a person that works close with you, they were like, okay, it's time to increase your BioCleanse a little bit. But my acid reflux went away. So I'm excited to see what happens with your son. So it's just a matter of making sure we're keeping those pathways, elimination pathways open, poop, pee, and sweat. So we talk a lot about digestion here, but the gut health, I mean, you're getting to the root cause of all of that. So I found this book by Dr. Benjamin Bickman, and it was actually recommended to me by another physician. He said, you got to read this because it talks about insulin sensitivity being at like one of the other major players or pillars of health. We talked about there's going to be 3 pillars of health we'll talk about today, and one of them's inflammation. Like, if you can balance your blood sugars, you're going to eliminate a lot of inflammation just by getting your sugars down. And Dr. McCulloch said, like, cancer loves inflammation, disease loves inflammation. So it's no wonder that a lot of us are walking around with all these little diagnoses or symptoms that haven't been diagnosed yet. It's just really about controlling that blood sugar. So you could say, oh, I just did my blood work, my blood sugar was fine. Well, did they check your blood insulin? Because your blood insulin can be high. And or even better, they should be talking about, let's check your insulin resistance, because there is a test for that. And usually you'll find that through like a more natural, holistic practitioner, right? You don't have to pay all that money, just start the products, because it's kind of like you'll just watch this go away. So balancing your blood sugars reduces that inflammation. It also balances hormones, because insulin's our master hormone. And so if you've got insulin up here and we can balance that, what comes next, like your thyroid, your adrenals, like everything just follows your ovaries, like your female hormones, your male hormones. So we say the pink drink isn't just for girls, it's for the men in our lives too. Young children to our aging parents, like there's just no age limit. We have specific children's products for sure for our littles, but there's no reason why we can't give them some BioCleanse or ProBio 5 too. And some of them have a little bit of the Slim, not a whole stick like we would, but it's really amazing what it can do for our kiddos too. Because what do kids eat? Carbs, sugar, dairy. Super inflammatory. And so their little guts start to get damaged from an early age, leading to the leaky gut. So, okay, one pillar is the reducing inflammation through balancing our blood sugars. And well, that's actually 2. And then we have gut health. So fixing that gut, which 80% of our, 70 to 80% of our immune system, our gut's responsible for. So these, so when you're kind of like, I'm always getting sick, or I always have these infections. I had chronic urinary tract infections, yeast infections, sinus, and canker sores. And if you look up Candida yeast overgrowth, put that somewhere in your brain. Those are 4 infections, things that you'll struggle with when you have leaky gut. So I didn't know about that until I started researching, because I'm like, this is crazy. All this stuff that's changing with my body. And to say that I don't have hot flashes anymore, and I'm like, this is the answer to menopause. Like, that was my big soapbox. If I could stand on something, it was on menopause. Well, then my husband started taking the products, and his athlete's foot went away. He was no longer a cranky old man. And so, like I say, it'll save marriages. Because we
It's
just
a
were
new
like,
one. Add that one to the
we're
list.
happy together. It's amazing. Nobody's hangry in the house. I know. I'm like, everybody needs that pink drink. And so, yeah, the immune system, the 90% of your serotonin, your gut's responsible for too. That's our happy hormone. So Dr. McCulloch alluded to the fact that like dopamine, serotonin, what's the other one? Dopamine, serotonin. There's another one. Why is this not?
Those melatonin is another one.
Melatonin's the other one.
But
anyway.
I know there's another one.
Yeah, those neurotransmitters.
You're not thinking of norepinephrine.
No, it's dopamine, serotonin, and GABA. GABA. So it's all the things that make your brain just say, oh, I'm so happy. And, and it's like a mood booster when your serotonin is secreting well. And 90%, if your gut's a mess, that's why, like in the ER, the medication list, I'm like, oh, it's the usual suspects. It's something for blood pressure, something for cholesterol, something for acid reflux, anxiety, depression, and
Pain.
pain. Yes, pain, inflammation. So, and it was very like, it was like, oh yeah, I know what, we knew what all the drugs were because we saw them all the time. And it was, that was our sick care. So, okay, so serotonin, melatonin. So if you're struggling with sleep, I was too before Plexus. I blamed it on my pillow and my mattress. I would say, oh, we've got to get a new mattress. This pillow is killing me. It was none of that. I just was uncomfortable from inflammation. So I would toss and turn all night long, and my sleep cycles were a mess, even though I would have told you I sleep fine. But if you caught me at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I was definitely commenting on posts on Facebook, or at least checking it out. And so anyway, so the sleep, I call it corpse pose now. I used to snore. I don't snore. So once you get rid of that inflammation too, sometimes that's all it is. It's just extra inflammation in your sinuses or in your tongue, or like just systemically, like from head to toe. Okay, so gut health, inflammation, blood sugars. Yeah, healing that gut, getting things to move through you. Did you guys know you're supposed to poop 1 to 3 times a day? Did you know that? I did not. As a nurse, we were taught if the patient has not pooped in 3 days, now we should be concerned and give them an enema or give them something to help with that. And that's standard nursing care in your care charts in the hospital. You're reabsorbing toxins every time, every minute that stuff is still sitting in your body. So it's important that when you eat, like that's gastrocolic reflex, you eat and you poop. With Plexus, that is not a problem. Like you should be able to, with adjusting to fit your body, you shouldn't have a problem. Like in the morning, it's kind of like, I'm like, okay, one and done. Or if I have a heavier meal, I might say, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom again. But it shouldn't be like an urgent colonoscopy prep, because I've just had that too. Squeaky clean results, let me just tell you. No polyps, it was great. And anyhow, so yeah, moving things in the right direction, healing that gut. X Factor Plus is the other one. It's a beautiful methylated vitamin that has aloe in it, or aloe, however you like to say that. And that helps to heal those junctures that we were talking about earlier, where all that stuff leaks through. And this is why you get those sensitivities to food. You heal that gut, you can have your dairy, you can have your gluten, you can have all that stuff, eggs, peanuts, things like that. People with celiac, that's a little harder because they truly are allergic to a certain protein. But that being said, keep their inflammation down, their life is happier. You still want to avoid gluten in them and be very careful about it, but we just have lots of stories about that too. And then any kind of like diverticulitis, colitis, Crohn's, those kind of things. I know we're saying a lot of diagnosis. I'm saying the diagnosis, that's me, sorry. But it's just crazy because you just watch those things reverse themselves, or people with their stories and their testimonies where just fixing the gut and healing the gut, how that translates to not going to the ER anymore with those problems.
Yeah.
Any questions? That was a lot.